like EASA stalwart. You say stalwart?
No. So Pablo has been part of EASA and EASA Spain for several years. It's some amazing workshops. Kind of things. My biggest memory of Pablo's was the Danish kind of foreigner bodies workshop, where he kind of dressed up, like made some kind of costumes, and also did a load of incredible kind of curatorial, I guess, kind of interventions in Denmark, in Fredericia. But I've also, yeah, like Pablo's art practice has been kind of, yeah, constantly probing, it seems, and it's kind of most recent project was like that I've seen anyway was Gym Olympia Health, which kind of made this international gym during COVID and got everyone around the world to create a kind of a quasi kind of virtual semi-real gym. But currently Pablo is kind of working in Rotor2. I can't pronounce it's Galleria Monitor and Rotor2, right? So, and he has been putting on some amazing shows and kind of like workshops and things like that. So he's going to share a little bit about those and his practice, and I guess these guys as well are joining in and kind of going to contribute. I haven't met you guys, but hello. So I'm going to let you take the floor. Thanks so much for coming, guys. Over to you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Luis, and for the presentation. I think it was too generous. We are also, it's not only Pablo who is here today. We're also Yana and Poppy, who have been carrying this project also together with us. Yana and I from the very beginning, and Poppy kind of took over at the end with some workshops. So yeah, I think it's very nice. Thank you so much for the invite. And we're now in the kitchen. You are in the living room, so I think we are very close to each other actually. So I'm gonna share screen if it's okay. Just for some slides.
That's okay.
Somewhere. Where am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you all see?
Yeah.
It's your white screen. Yeah.
You see a presentation. There might be some noise eventually because there is people entering the kitchen, and it's not a joke. So sorry for that. But yeah, basically we want to talk about this project that is called Rotor2 for Ukraine.
So you're sharing your browser.
Pablo, I think you should just share your whole screen. You know, share this part. Yeah,
Okay.
just share. Yeah.
Okay, sorry for that. Yeah, what I was saying is that we are here, Poppy, Yana, and Pablo. Yeah, Yana and I started this Rotor2 for Ukraine initiative that if you haven't heard about it, well, it has been, it's not working, yeah. An initiative that facilitated a program in order to like tackle on solidarity with the victims of the war in Ukraine. And yeah, this is.
It happened in Gothenburg in an art gallery. Well, the aim was to provide a safe space in order to gather around the concern. That was the starting point, I guess.
This is the space of the gallery. It's barely 30 square meters of artwork exhibition space in the University of Gothenburg, HTK Valland.
And I guess the context was that we received the gallery space because the group of artists that were going to exhibit canceled, and well, the war had just begun. And so it was a very context of emergency for us to do something with the gallery space. Yep.
Yeah, so Yeah, the idea was a little bit to react quickly to this situation. So we had the opportunity to use this space, but also to challenge the traditional program of the gallery that was focused on showing objects for students to gain some curricular resume, showing off stuff. And so we just basically introduced like different activities such as a solidarity market, a collective reading session, in order to create like this place of encounter, with periodic open doors every day at 4 p.m. And it was eventually would generate this space for tackling, like talking, to generating conversations and having the opportunity to also learn from each other and to share knowledge about the conflict in Ukraine. And we had also some screening sessions with some films. And
well, I guess another thing also to say is that we wanted for the space to be able to be taken over by other groups and organizations if they wanted to. So this every day at 4 was like the anchor, I guess. So this is some photos. This is from the collective reading. Next is also Gregoire reading. This is the kind of everydayness that we wanted to create there, people settling in nicely. This is from the Solidarity Market. And basically the arrangement of with these logs, the fabrics, the sofas, it was a very quick action of us collecting what we could gather around us. Also, a lot of people helped with that, which is really, really nice. And this moment is of an artist giving us some prints and us looking for a space to hang them.
This is what the general aspect of the Solidarity Market was very cozy, arty, like exhibition, kind of like fluctuating constantly, so people would update every time someone who is buying a print. There is an empty space in the wall, so if someone comes with a new print, we would place it there and so on. So it's like kind of this idea of a live space that was kind of interesting. More of this community kind of idea that was created around this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is from one of the eating, cooking, gathering things. And we also, I guess the space that was created with the logs, we had some candles, people were using it in different ways to arrange seating, to arrange the lighting. It wasn't like constant, it wasn't looking the same all the time.
And also, like, as I was mentioning before, like hosting different programs, different, like the function was not clearly defined. There was, the furniture or the objects were constantly changing their position in the space. So that was kind of very interesting because we didn't have like a clear idea what it should look like. It was depending on the people arriving and moving it according to whatever was required at the moment.
Yeah, some nice prints getting packaged. Yeah.
Because we sold them. Masha is among you there. Thank you so much. I wanted to use this time also to say thank you to all the people who actually helped us during the process, because she put us in contact with Nadia, who is part of this platform that is providing. There's this screening platform. It's called TagFlix, and it's kind of the Ukrainian Netflix, if I'm correct. And she was very generous, helping us to screen some films from Ukrainian directors. So we made this apart from because the gallery space was given to us for 1 week. Then they extended us because they thought it was kind of demanding. The space and the program we were providing was interesting for the people, so they extended us for 1 week else. And then when we abandoned the space, we had the option to use also other spaces, such as this film, well, this cinema in the university. So we were projecting this Ukrainian film marathon.
Yeah, and in terms of the other space, the gallery space, we had a closing event finally in a collaboration with another group in the city, with Poppy, who is here, and Natalie. And I'm going to very briefly go over this because Poppy is going to talk more about it. But the event was framed as where do we go from here? Yeah, and it was a part of it was a workshop that was very hands-on in the space. And then at 7:30 p.m. We had some presentations by other friends.
Julia and Lisa, that you might know them because they're from EASA. They were after 7:30 that we have this, as Yana was saying, that this one-to-one encounter at a more physical space for people from Gothenburg, but then we switched towards the digital sphere and we connected with people internationally. It was kind of very interesting, this moment in which people who were participating in the workshop first stayed longer and joined the digital conversation on Zoom. And we had these generous presentations by Julia and Lisa, who kind of shared with us some useful ways of helping and supporting from our positions. And this is some images from this workshop.
And then we moved Rotor2 for Ukraine online, and we started it off with an auction for artist Carolina Folk called Sprint, which was a donation. Basically it started off on our website, and then we continued it on Instagram as well. And this was until the 3rd of April was the bidding time. And as a little conclusion, this is I guess I would call it the first donation because we keep receiving more, but we donated 10,000 crowns, which is 1,000 euro to a branch of the UN. And
it was kind of in the space of achievements of this, if we have to mention something very material based. And this is the way you can contact us because we continue doing stuff and we are open to collaborations and to make local and global alliances. Feel free to scan our QR code and contact us on our website and Instagram. And now Poppy is gonna introduce a little bit of the workshop that she was conducting during the closing session. So we're gonna.
I think we just can exit or like. Oh no, you can.
This where is Miro somewhere up there.
But I suppose you can.
Sorry for this. Just a second. Yeah, here. Yeah, sorry for the technicality.
Yeah, so we, as part of the closing event, Natalie Blom, who's not here today, and myself and Pablo and Yana, we all threw this closing event, which posed the question, where do we go from here? And it was a workshop about, it was a continuation from the week that Rotor for Ukraine had held in the gallery space, but it also was sort of our own starting point about how to be engaged and how to learn and how to generate conversations. So it was both a continuation, but also kind of this new birth starting point. So we started the presentation, although the format of the workshop was a presentation and then open discussion, presentation, open discussion, and then we had the presentations from Julia and Lisa. We began the workshop by presenting what we saw as the problem, or what was the situation right now, and a lot of that focused on the Swedish government's response to incoming refugees, how they've dealt with things in the last refugee crisis in 2015, and what the sort of responses were now. A lot of them we felt removed the dignity of those people that were moving over here, even if it was for a temporary solution. So the government's proposition at the moment largely revolved around using tents, which really is not a particularly climate appropriate solution in Sweden, and was something that we felt really reduced the dignity and reduced the sense of security of newly arrived people. So in the face of that kind of presentation, we asked, what is a safe space? And in the workshop, I think we were probably like 25 people, something like that. We broke up into small groups and had small discussion. We framed the whole workshop. Natalie and I are both architects, but it was in a gallery space. So we were kind of framing the whole workshop as how do we engage as creatives, as architects, as artists. So it was really nice to have that blending of the disciplines together. And I think in general, people had a really generous response in the types of answers they were giving and in the way that they engaged with the questions. But we talked about what is a safe space, this kind of balance between security and privacy, but also having warmth and coziness and those sorts of features. And then after that, we looked at previous solutions and what could be done in terms of building some kind of temporary housing for newly arrived people that were staying for a short term. And asked the question again, what is shelter? Which tied really nicely into the presentations from Julia and Lisa, who posed this idea of it's not just shelter, it's also a home. And again, we had a similar format. We broke into small groups and then had a few open questions for discussion. And we ended the workshop with a question, what is my role? And I think that was a really nice space, a really nice way to round out the end of the workshop, because it gave people an opportunity to have internal reflection, but also to kind of, it was like putting down on a piece of paper, this is how I can be engaged and this is where I can continue to move. And also kind of continue that question of where do we go from here in a more concrete way. Yeah. At the moment, we've kind of compiled, so in the same spirit as a lot of the rest of the Rotor for Ukraine work, we've kind of compiled all of the information here. And the workshop was both digital and physical, and it was nice to be able to blend those things together to also be able to share resources and links and all the different ways that people can be engaging. And the hope and the ambition is that from this workshop, like we said, this was sort of the beginning point of our engagement. It was an opportunity for us to have some agency, because it can be hard to feel like you have any kind of voice in the face of these global crises. So it was a starting point for our own kind of agency and engagement. But also an opportunity to learn. And so we had, people that know more about these kinds of situations engage, and also gave us a starting point. So we're hoping to take this format of workshop to then engage architects, city planners, have more engagement from the city here in a more general sense.
Thank you.
Opportunity to have internal reflection, but also to kind of, it was like putting down on a piece of paper, this is how I can be engaged and this is where I can continue to move. And also kind of continue that question of where do we go from here in a more concrete way. At the moment, we've kind of compiled, so in the same spirit as a lot of the rest of the Rotor for Ukraine work, we've kind of compiled all of the information here. And the workshop was both digital and physical, and it was nice to be able to blend those things together to also be able to share resources and links and all the different ways that people can be engaging. And the hope and the ambition is that from this workshop, like we said, this was sort of the beginning point of our engagement. It was an opportunity for us to have some agency, because it can be hard to feel like you have any kind of voice in the face of these global crises. So it was a starting point for our own kind of agency and engagement, but also an opportunity to learn. And so we had people that know more about these kinds of situations engage, and also gave us a starting point. So we're hoping to take this format of workshop to then engage architects, city planners, have more engagement from the city here in a more general sense.
Thank you very much.
yeah, it's super interesting to hear, and like it's to see what you plan to, that you plan to like compile this information and then like take it somewhere. Seems like a really like productive like period of time, like I don't know, project in general. Yeah, I was wondering like what future plans you might have for the gallery. Like, are you sort of occupying it ongoing now, or like what's the general plan for the future?
Yeah, I mean, well, physically we are not, because it's a we just got it extended for a week after the initial week that we had. Yeah, I mean, currently we haven't had the online auction kind of just ended, so that's kind of the wrapping of stuff now.
But I think there's a really interesting kind of a feature of this event in that it started in this physical place. It kind of was born out of a gallery space, and then it kind of moved online, and then it kind of begins to expand into other digital spaces. So it kind of can exist in like multiple different forms.
And I mean, what Poppy said, what Poppy said, that the closing of the event was the start of a collaboration between us. So it was like, it kind of could move into different spaces, I think. Yeah.
If I can add up on that, is that perhaps I think it's exactly what they said. And everything we planned from the very beginning was not happening. Like it was very like an accumulation of unsuccessful events in terms of that everything we had in mind changed radically during the execution, because we were contacting local stakeholders and activist groups, and we were trying to collaborate in many different ways, and we were kind of like adapting to the circumstances all the time, which was very interesting, this aspect of emergency that Yana was mentioning, that since we had to use our resources around, everything was happening differently because it was depending on what we could handle. And I think this Rotor2 is the name of the space, but we have been collaborating with Valan Film Club in another space. We are like perhaps initiating some sort of collaboration in a more architectural based activity. So I don't know, it's constantly open, and I think we just started because we are learning from a lot of things that have been happening in a very short period of time. Yeah, that's my feeling, at least, that we created like this group of people that now we can talk in the same, we're on the same page, let's say.
I have to say, because we were communicating with Pablo, and like you asked, like the speed at which you organized all this, it's ridiculous. You know, it was like one, which I barely remember, by the way. But it's just like you're overwhelmed and you can barely take yourself up from the bed. And this guy's already like organized the space and the program and more this than ever. It just happened like, I'm considering that obviously there was no way to prepare for this, you know. I think we can like consider it as a reactionary action that's very successful in the time frame that it happened. Yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed, and I think that I was about to talk about what you just described today a bit later. So you did a very good job, I think, on responding to the question like what anyone in Europe can do, like what we can do, and I think you just like outlined the program what you can do, like if you have a space or if you don't have a space, or like you outlined the roadmap, to be honest, for people around Europe involved in some like architecture, creative industries, or having some spaces, or just having some extra energy, what they can actually do to raise some money or to raise awareness or just in the community, or yeah, it's
Thank you so much, Masha. I think it was one of the key aspects of it was the insane amount of people supporting during the whole process. That is not present, of course, here, but is not visible in the pictures, or like it was at least more than 50 artists donated artworks that from their like personal. I mean, valuable objects that is perhaps not the main focus of this, but is very kind of significant. And also the amount of people who were supporting us during all the time, like moving stuff, heavy stuff, because you work physically. And I think it was kind of clear also with the work that you do, bibliothèque. I don't know if it's called the space that you are like arranging is very important to have visibility, because then we can see that some people is doing stuff, and then we can contact and say, how did you manage to do this? And we help each other. And I think that was a very important aspect of it, that we try to move quickly and to make it so visible. So yeah.
I think it also speaks to like, there was a hunger and a frustration from us, but also from the people, everyone that came and helped and supported at all of the events, because people like are struck by this conflict and have very little output, it feels, for actually meaningfully engaging. So that was something that I thought was really like generous and encouraging.
Yeah, and I guess also we were all working on different ideas of time and like time scales, because there is the emergency, but then when we were talking about what is a shelter, what is a home, where do we go from here, and having screenings and readings, it felt like we were also thinking of it in a long-term way of like both learning but also accommodating, integrating, and like changing ourselves according to that, while doing very fast actions day to day, like events that we were just responding to the situation. It's just a reflection of how you can also think of time in this whole event. Yeah.
Maybe also like the readings and the films, it's almost looking back as well, because you're looking at this other reality that's not there anymore, and kind of building an idea of the context of what was before the crisis came or the war came.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if you could share the Miro board that you showed. That would be really take a look.
Yeah, we share the link.
Send them.
Yeah,
You can
definitely.
copy.
Maybe just the links and things, because yeah, like it looked like you covered a lot of things in there. It was great. It was a resource.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's in the chat, but we will send it to Luis perhaps.
And feel free also to add things, because I think it's nice to have this kind of like living, ongoing digital space.
Yeah.
So it'd be really nice if you guys are interested to add some.
I can't hear you, sorry.
Maybe worth sharing on EASA Friends as well. What do you think?
You understand?
I was saying maybe it's worth sharing the link on the EASA Friends page.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, EASA is main fuel for this. So.
Yeah, the reason why I say that is because in EASA, because at Facebook, EASA Friends, but like in the last month, that there was like so much activity of like people like organizing like architecture studios, the students to relocate, using like if anyone needs to stay somewhere, or like it's just like such a work that reacts to things really quickly, and yeah, just like a collective mind, and it's just like there were like multiple cases where someone was like, okay, my friend just crossed the border of Slovakia. Yes, Slovakian team, like my grandfather did it for us. I'm gonna take my car and pick you up and that kind of stuff. But that's really, it's really important. It's the value of the EASA that we need to appreciate.
Yeah, I think this is super important. Well, sorry, you were gonna say something.
No, go for it.
No, that wouldn't happen. Like this wouldn't happen without a group of people already thinking together. I think that is crucial for us, that we were already hands-on, and it's like we were working and then this situation arrived and we had to turn left or right in order to address it. And we were already in the mood of thinking and talking and sharing. And that is kind of, for me, that's something that I've learned from EASA. I mean, this idea of being in contact with a big group of people, sharing like, hey, what's happening? Even though if we are not in the same city or in the same place, we keep connecting and sharing information that is active in a many, like, quite, I don't know if alternative way. You get information directly from the people who are experiencing stuff, not just from the media or from the, I don't know, from the Instagram as well. But I mean, to have the chance to ask someone who has more experience on site about something, for me is just the most valuable thing.
Yeah, I have a question. You can't see me, but hi, thank you. When you opened up for the weekender for the 3-day event, were you also inhabiting the space outside of hours? Were you like cooking and eating and resting there as well?
Yeah, we're working a lot.
Yeah, we actually moved 2 desks there, and we had the intention of having our office there. So this happened a little bit, I would say, but it was I actually it's a bit of a blur because everything happened all the time. I don't remember if we stayed that much there. I just remember that it was sometimes you would just be there all on your own, and I don't know how much time passed between that and having a lot of people there. Yeah,
and it was a little bit cold. So, much better when we was full of people and we feel like the warmth.
Yeah.
It sounds like one of those fundraising marathons, like the telethon, where people are like,
Yeah.
It's kind of just the imagery in my head of what it must have been like to be in that space over the whole weekend, sort of semi-operating as an open space and semi-operating kind of behind the scenes. Yeah, just
Yeah, totally. There was no office inside the space. It was open.
Yeah.
Totally. There was not like secondary activities happening. It was everything mixed all the time. And I think it was quite important because for people to take over eventually, like, would you please help me to hang this poster on the wall, or would you like to do you see if there is something we can connect the projector? I don't know. There was always like we didn't really felt that we were alone, but sometimes a little bit took the freedom of asking people for help constantly, and I think that was crucial.
Yeah.